Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. So I'm getting a lot of questions from my investor community that, hey, should we be investing in the US markets right now or should we pick the Indian markets? Where are the opportunities? Can you help us understand this logic more? So I researched, I went into a deep dive and I researched a lot of data, a lot of points, and there are 5 summarized points that I would like to tell you. Number 1, that right now it makes sense to book some profits in the short term in both the markets. Why? I'll explain. Number 2, I don't see any massive bulk buying opportunities in the markets right now. Number 3, there are some asymmetric bets. So agar aapka portfolio is not skewed towards these, you could consider it. For example, something like UiPath is bouncing back in the US. It might make sense, right? Similarly, in India, IT stocks are bouncing back. You have consumer durables, which has already bounced back, and some of these stocks are picking up, might make sense. Number 4, you should continue to do SIP in some bit. Number 5, definitely diversify between the Indian stock markets and the US stock markets. Why? Because the nature of both these markets is going to shift a little bit from this point. Now, why am I saying it? So let me deep dive into different macros and 5-6 points मैं आपको और बताता हूँ जिससे कि you can get more clarity, and then I'll come back again to this summary. So okay, so point number 1 is that, see, in India, election is already over. So that election rally or pre-election rally, post-election rally has been absorbed to a very large extent. This is the first key change that has happened in the Indian market. Now in the US, this has not happened yet. Okay, so which means that there might be a pre-election / post-election rally in the US. Okay, so this is point number 1. जो आपको ध्यान में रखना पड़ेगा. Additionally, a related point here is that because in India we have somewhat of a lesser majority with the government, it's a mixed government, one could argue. So there will be a lot more data that will come out. So therefore, we will expect to see a lot more volatility in the Indian market. This is very, very important point. अब आप बोलोगे कि इससे फर्क क्या पड़ता है? So guys, I'm running my hedge fund. I get to speak with a lot of investors, HNIs. They exhibit these type of high impact points, so I try to bring this to you, and one of the key things that they are focusing on is managing their volatility. Volatility is what makes them little bit nervous, so they always look for slightly safe investment options. So on that note, मैं आपको ज़्यादा bore नहीं करता, right? And I will just quickly help you understand this point a little bit more by taking you to the chart of Nifty 50, and मैं आपको यहाँ से दिखाता हूँ. So take a look at this, and this is a point that I covered on my last video also. What it simply means is that if we start looking at the market from 12th October 21, this is Indian market, and if we analyze the market till April 23, so this was a 2-year period जहाँ पे interest rate बहुत ज़्यादा जल्दी बढ़ाए गए थे. So the interest rates were jacked up and the market fell how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there were 5 instances when the market fell approximately by 10% or 10% or more, and these are called as volatility points or volatile points. Okay, and this is what scares a lot of investors. So if you are a retail investor and you are getting scared by this 10% fall, तो आपको यह समझ में आना चाहिए कि अच्छा आगे चल के इस तरीके की situation, where is it likely to be exhibited? According to my understanding, this is likely to be exhibited in the Indian markets more compared to the US market right now, if you are keeping a short-term view. So which brings us to the first key takeaway that, hey, if in the short term you are little bit scared of this volatility, or you require that money in like a 2 to 3 year period, इससे ज़्यादा आपका investing horizon नहीं है, then see, right now very good opportunity to book like 20% profits in the Indian market and also in the US market. So now US में depend करता है कि whether you have more investment in S&P 500, which is the broad market index for the US, or you have more investment in NASDAQ. The primary difference between S&P 500 and NASDAQ in the US is that NASDAQ is predominantly tech focused. Almost 25 to 27% weight on NASDAQ is of top 5 tech companies. Okay. With S&P that is not the case. It's slightly more broad in nature. So S&P को compare करते हैं, right? And मैं आपको 1-2 data points दिखाता हूँ. So for example, in the last 1 year, you will see that S&P has given 26% run up. What about Nifty? How much return has Nifty given? So in 1 year, it has given again almost the same run up. But on a 5-year basis, if you see, Nifty has given 100% run up, and S&P 500 has only given 86% run up, so to say. ओके, अब आप इसमें दुनिया भर की चीज़ें बोल सकते हो कि यार देखो करेंसी डीवैल्यूएशन हो गया इंडिया में, इसलिए प्रोबेबली लाइक रन अप इज लिटिल बिट फास्टर, ऑल दैट स्टफ. सो नाउ वी विल मेक इट मोर कॉम्प्लिकेटेड, बट विद करेंसी डेप्रिसिएशन यूएस को कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. सो अकॉर्डिंग टू मी देयर इज अ चांस दैट व्हाट देयर विल बी एन एडिशनल लाइक making up of this 15% rally just before election, so to say. Okay, so ये आपको थोड़े से gains आ सकते हैं, right? That's the possibility which might happen. This is one. Okay, the second key point is that the interest rate cuts will happen in the US. This is very, very likely that this might happen in the US, and this will impact the US market directly, and then it will impact the Indian market indirectly, right? Now, what is the meaning of that? ये थोड़ा सा advanced point हो जाएगा, but I'll still try to teach you. So see, होता क्या है कि when the interest rates are cut, the tech companies, they benefit a lot. Now, why am I saying it? Because होता क्या है कि these companies are already cash rich companies. Okay, for example, जैसे अगर आप Amazon की balance sheet देखो, Meta की balance sheet देखो, etc., then what ends up happening with these tech companies is that in a low interest rate environment, they give like massive rally, and this is precisely what happened even in post 2020 when interest rates were cut. Okay, so मैं आपको ये भी दिखा देता हूँ. For example, अगर आप Google पे जाओ, ये 2020, इसके बाद जो रैली दी है गूगल ने भाई साहब एक साल में, राइट? आई मीन दिस वाज लाइक एब्सोल्यूट क्रेजी रैली, राइट? एंड आई एम नॉट हैंड पिकिंग, यू टेक अ लुक एट एप्पल, राइट? सो दिस वाज लाइक 2020, यहाँ से आप देख लो एप्पल की रैली, राइट? आई मीन फ्रॉम 96 इट हैज गॉन अप टू 207. ओके, सो वेरी फास्ट रैली, बिकॉज वन कुड आर्ग्यू दैट बिटवीन दैट 2020 पीरियड एंड 2021 पीरियड द इंटरेस्ट रेट्स वर कट, एंड इससे यूएस के स्टॉक्स को बहुत ज़्यादा फायदा होता है, राइट? आई एम नॉट सेइंग इंडियन स्टॉक्स डू नॉट बेनिफिट. Indian stocks benefit, but the US stocks benefit more. Okay, so this is an important point that hey, this 15% additional rally, it is likely to come in like US stocks, right? So आप US में बहुत ज़्यादा stocks मत काटो. That is what my point would be. I explain all these advanced points even on my member community. I run courses also where I cover like US stock investing, and उसमें अब थोड़ा सा section international investing पे भी कर रहा हूँ, right? For example, जैसे दुबई real estate हो गया, etc. So I'm going to cover all those points. So in case you guys are interested, I'm putting the links in the description and comment box, and you can sign up for the course. So anyways, coming back to the point, the first key takeaway is that in the US the chances of run up is slightly higher. Point number 2 is that if you look at the markets technically, right? So for example, again मैं ये start करता हूँ. For example, if you look at the markets here, this is the Indian market, right? Now India में election rally is done. We are hitting this resistance point. इसके बाद हो ये सकता है कि market ऐसे निकल जाए इसके ऊपर, और हो ये भी सकता है कि this channel is followed. So it makes more sense to do this channel trading, right? Channel trading in the Indian market. कब exactly कैसे करना है and all that point I anyways cover on my member community, but this is an important piece of information I want to give out. Point number 3 is that the volatility in the Indian market is likely to be higher. Why is that? Because see, when mixed government is there, now mixed government का मतलब कि support जोड़ तोड़ की सरकार and all that stuff, the media actually becomes slightly more fairer, I would say, right? I'm not saying कि it will become fair, but you know खराब points भी cover करने लग जाते हैं, and that actually hits the market in the news format. So we are likely to see a lot more volatility in the Indian market as of now. So इसलिए मेरा assumption ये रहेगा, or like my prognosis would be that hey, we are likely to follow this channel. This is going to be the case. So इसके हिसाब से you should figure out your trading / investment strategy. It might make more sense. Okay, in the US the picture is such that because elections are supposed to happen, there is a little bit of lag left. I don't think that there will be massive volatility on election. There might be a little bit, but not to the extent that the Indian market would exhibit volatility. This is the third key point that I want to make. Now, fourth key point, ki should you be bulk buying anything in the US market versus Indian market? See, that's a hard thing to understand, because see, if you get an opportunity like this, ki 10% ka fall aa gaya, right? I mean, like this, right? If you are in that volatile phase, jo aayega, right? I mean, there is a very high certainty that will happen in Indian markets. Then it makes sense to bulk buy, right? I'm mostly going to buy here. Okay, I'm not going to continue to do SIP and all that stuff. I don't believe too much in that theory. But if you're not a slightly more advanced, sophisticated investor, then doing SIP or continuing to do SIP makes sense. वरना आपको time करना बहुत मुश्किल पड़ जाएगा, right? So definitely do continue to do SIPs. I hope that I'm not confusing you. I hope that this point is clear. This is slightly advanced. This allows you to make that 2-3% alpha over the market, and that actually leads to much faster wealth growth. So इसलिए मैं advanced strategies आपके साथ discuss कर रहा हूँ. Okay. Now in the US, what's the scene? Now if you actually go and try to pick the most popular US stocks, जैसे for example मैंने मेटा में लगाए थे पैसे, right? ये रहा वीडियो. When I made this, I got like so much negativity कि यार मेटा तो खत्म है, ये वो. Since then it has given like crazy run up, right? So more than 100% run up it has given. मेरा काफ़ी पैसा लगा हुआ था, अभी भी लगा हुआ है. I have not booked profits. And यहाँ पे अभी सीन क्या चल रहा है? For example, if you take a look at Apple, the stock has doubled. Okay, so stock has given very strong rally. Apple all time high, Amazon all time high. Everywhere it's like all time high, so to say. Okay, so I don't think that, again, here is an opportunity to bulk invest. It makes literally zero sense to bulk invest. However, you can continue to do SIPs on this. Now, why am I proposing SIP on this? Because in the US, interest rates are going to get cut. And again, companies like Meta, Amazon, Google, these are going to be the biggest beneficiary of this interest rate cut. Why is that the case? So again, advanced point, right? मेरा गोल एडवांस चीज़ें बढ़ाना है आपको. So advanced point यहाँ पे ये है कि यार देखो, basically in Apple, Amazon, all these companies, these are cash rich companies. अगर आप इनकी balance sheet देखोगे, okay? So they are sitting on billions of dollars of cash, okay? What they do is their credit rating is very very strong. So they are very safe companies to lend money to. In a low interest rate environment, कि भाई जो आपकी ब्याज की दरें हैं वो कम हो गई, they can avail like cheaper loans. What do these companies do? They go and borrow money like crazy, okay? And क्योंकि इनको सस्ता मिल रहा है लोन, okay? And then they will throw that money on R&D, faster growth, hiring more people, all that stuff, okay? So this stuff happens, right? Now interest rates are likely to be cut in the US. So as a result, यहाँ पे growth आने की संभावना है, right? And therefore it makes sense कि आप at least इसमें SIP करते रहो. Bulk buy की opportunity clear नहीं है, right? So there is no point in like sort of running after it. But yes, I mean if you get these stocks at like 5, 7, 10% discount, it might make sense. Now you'll say कि अच्छा bulk buy कहाँ कर सकते हैं? Very difficult to say, and unless you are like a slightly more sophisticated investor, this following point is not applicable to you. Now consider for example UiPath. According to me, it is a good stock. Now why am I saying that it is a good stock? So for example, if you take a look at the company's revenues, profit, ऐसी कोई खास प्रॉब्लम इसमें है नहीं. It's a sensible company. It is a market leader in the specific domain that it operates. If you guys want, I'll write a detailed note tomorrow on my member community regarding UiPath. I'll give you more commentary on it. It will benefit from low interest rates. Yesterday I was doing a session with my member community students, and this was a chat, so I ended up speaking with a lot of people who work in tech. They were able to present a lot of viewpoints. Their viewpoint was that, see, you know what, when it comes to M7 stocks, these are magnificent 7 tech companies in the US. What they are focused on is that they are focused on creating like ecosystems, right? एंड जो स्मॉलर कंपनीज होती हैं जैसे UiPath हो गई या आपका Coinbase हो गया, राइट, ऑल दीज आर वेरी वेरी स्पेसिफिक नीश tech companies. For example, just Coinbase is nothing but an underplay of the crypto market. Now, if the crypto market adoption is going up, then Coinbase as a stock is going to go up. Now, that is very basic, commonsensical. Now, similarly, UiPath, what does it do? It does a technology called as robotic process automation, right? Now, these companies, they have a higher chance of pivoting. They are like, startup type of companies. They can pivot faster. They can offer or change this particular technology and pivot to something else. Their growth depends literally on survivability, right? So इसमें अब जैसे ऊपर नीचे जा रहा है स्टॉक, तो इसमें आपको कोई खास फर्क पड़ना नहीं चाहिए, right? I mean now if you are betting on the technology called as RPA, आप इसको खरीद लो, okay? Now if you are betting on a technology called as crypto or like Web 3.0, then buy like something like Coinbase. It makes sense. If these companies survive for 10 years, then it is almost given that you are going to 5x, 6x your money. So there is a very high probability of that happening. So these are called as asymmetric bets. These type of bets are more there in the US compared to in India. So if you want to aggregate these type of asymmetric bets, so by default you will have to go to the US. There is no other option. Now in India, what is going to happen? Because now some of you might be thinking कि अच्छा ठीक है, US tech growth होगी, then companies like TCS, Wipro, these will also benefit because they make a lot of money from US/European clients. In fact, most of the money that these companies make, they make from US and European clients. Now that is 100% correct, and therefore I am looking at the IT index more prominently. मैं आपको थोड़ा सा दिखा देता हूँ IT index. In fact, this is a swing. ये पुराना table बना हुआ है. In fact, this is a swing that I completed. So I bought IT index here and then I sold it somewhere here. And मैंने आपको पूरी technical analysis करके दिखाई थी on member community also. So I personally have exited, like for example, मैंने काफ़ी बड़ा खरीदा था. I bought like a lot of 1 CR. And then it moved to like 1.35 CR. I cut like 50% of my position, right? So something like this, right? And rest 50% मेरे पास पड़ा हुआ है. So ये गिर गया था, यहाँ तक गिरा था, right? Then it has started to come back up. So I have not done much. अब देखो, अब now most likely this channel is going to continue to be traded for the next 6 months, right? Or next 3-4 months. And US election से पहले जैसे interest rate cut होंगे, this is likely to break this channel. Okay, so I'm going to likely to time this and add more positions on my IT stocks, right? I might buy some very specific stocks. For example, I'm leaning towards TCS. I'm also looking at Tata Tech. Okay, अभी इसका PE रेशियो थोड़ा सा बढ़ा हुआ है, बट इट हैज़ फॉलन ऑल ओवर. सो अगर ठीक ठाक PE पे मिल जाएगा तो खरीद लेंगे, वरना जान दो, राइट? कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता खास. आई एम ऑल्सो लुकिंग एट स्पेसिफिक सेक्टर्स, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, और स्पेसिफिक थीम्स लाइक डेटा सेंटर्स, राइट? इन इंडिया, कंपनीज दैट एड्रेस दैट थीम. आई एम स्टडिंग द स्टॉक्स. आई विल लेट यू गाइज नो. So data center seem like a very prominent theme in India because काफ़ी data localization होगा. So this is one key thing that I'm trying to add to my tech portfolio in India. इसके बाहर मेरे को I don't see too many any opportunities, but if you guys are seeing anything, do let me know, right? I'll go through the comments, I'll try to investigate more, but this is my overarching thesis as of now. So just to cut the long story short, here are like 5-6 key takeaways. So number one, the interest rate cuts are likely to benefit the US market more compared to the Indian market in the short term. Number two, it makes sense to book some profits at least on Nifty 50 or indices in India. मैं आपको इसी कड़ी में ये सेकंड पॉइंट के तहत आपको मैं स्मॉल कैप भी दिखा देता हूँ, राइट? सो दिस इज समथिंग दैट आई वाज एनालाइजिंग. सो दिस वाज द वन फेज ऑफ स्मॉल कैप. ओके, सो दिस वाज द ट्रेंड लाइन, दिस वाज ट्रेंड लाइन 1, दिस वाज ट्रेडिंग चैनल 2, सो टू से, जहाँ पे अभी चल रहा है. ओके, सो ये पूरा आर्च ही चेंज हो गया, राइट, फॉर फ्रॉम दिस टू दिस, राइट? सो इट इज लाइकली टू गेट फॉलोड हियर, राइट? सो इसको भी आप इस तरीके से टाइम कर सकते हो, राइट? एंड अकॉर्डिंगली यू कैन मेक अ प्ले वेदर यू वांट टू एग्जिट सम स्मॉल कैप. राइट नाउ, डज इट मेक सेंस टू बुक सम प्रॉफिट्स ऑन स्मॉल कैप? Yes, on a short term basis it makes sense. Okay, so that is point number 2, right? Point number 3, अगर आप SIP करते हो, then it makes sense to continue to do SIP. I would prefer Nasdaq over S&P 500. Number 4, you can add some asymmetric bets in the US market, for example UiPath, Coinbase, depending if you believe in these themes. Number 5, in the Indian tech, I still don't see like massive opportunities, to be honest. Still, according to me, something like TCS is going to benefit more from interest rate cut. They are also pivoting their models, what not, right? So आगे चल के इनमें growth opportunities हैं, ऐसा नहीं है. So if we find it at a good level, we will definitely buy it. Final question that I keep on getting, यार अभी market is very high, should we exit, should we re-enter later? See, थोड़ी बहुत pruning करना और readjusting your portfolio makes sense, but net ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि for example, let's say in my case, for example, 70% of my net worth, entire net worth is in the stock markets. Okay, now ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि अब now the market is very high, so I will withdraw like almost 60-70% of that money right now. No, that does not make any sense, because if I'm withdrawing 60-70% of their money, where will I reinvest, right? अब real estate market, right, it is an all-time high, gold at an all-time high, bitcoin at an all-time high, so आप reinvest करोगे कहाँ? तो आपको by default stock market में रहना पड़ता है, and therefore you have to take this risk कि जब market high भी है तो शॉर्ट टर्म के लिए आपने थोड़ा बहुत बुक कर लिया, नॉट एन इशू, जस्ट टू प्रिवेंट योरसेल्फ फ्रॉम दैट 10% फॉल दैट विल हैपन एट सम स्टेज. बट बियॉन्ड दैट देयर इज नो पॉइंट इन कटिंग पोजीशंस राइट नाउ. एटलीस्ट वेट फॉर द इंटरेस्ट रेट कट्स एंड वेट फॉर द यूएस इलेक्शन रैली टू हैपन, एंड उसके बाद देखते हैं क्या करना है, राइट? सो दैट्स व्हाट आई वुड से. आई होप दैट यू एंजॉयड दिस कन्वर्सेशन, दिस वीडियो, एंड इफ यू डिड, डू सब्सक्राइब, लाइक दिस वीडियो, एंड आई विल सी यू सून.